What is a situationship? It's like a relationship, except it's not. Welcome back to the reading of my book. This is part one. We just did the introduction and the acknowledgement and the reason why I wrote this book. So you are on time. So this is chapter one. Things are fuzzy. When Facebook came out with its relationship statuses, it had it's complicated as one of its options. It made a lot of people chuckle, but it also gave a name to what people had been experiencing but were unable to describe. Situationships fit right here, under the its complicated status. The situation part of the word helps capture this idea that it can be difficult and confusing to describe what exactly is going on in a situationship. It truly is complicated, but what exactly is complicated? Is it that whatever is going on has never been defined, or was it defined at one point and then one party did not keep their word? There are a lot of ways that situationships can be complicated. We would start with a definition of what a situationship is. A situationship is the blurry space between being in a clearly defined relationship and just being friends. Mismatched words and actions create this lack of clarity. One party or both parties act as though they are in a relationship while actively claiming not to be in one. Finally, one part is more committed or more ready for commitment than the other. Feel free to go back and replay that if you need to. You might want to read that again. Look at that. My current self, I'm the author, and I am adding extra to it. My current self is in sync with my past self, if you will. You might want to read that definition again, as it will set the premise of what we will be exploring throughout this book. But I will be breaking it down a bit more so you get the most out of it. There are 3 critical parts of this definition, and we will explore them in the first 3 chapters. In a situationship, you know that something is off. It may be many factors that come together to create this off feeling, but the feeling is undeniable. You know that your relationship could be more explicit, more defined, and less ambiguous. These are some of the familiar ways in which people get entangled into the web of situationships. He might make confusing moves, like ignoring you when you are in the same room, but messaging you at the end of the day about how much he misses you. It is actions like these that leave you questioning his motives. Is he bored? Is he horny? Or does he genuinely miss you? These actions might very well also have you questioning your sanity and why you choose to endure this kind of inconsistency. Everything might feel like a relationship. You think you're the only girl in the picture. When he talks about his future wife, it's pretty much you he's describing. Still, he never uses absolute terms to describe your relationship. This style of dating is a scam that defrauds you of your time. You are either friends or more than friends. The in-between stuff that makes up situationships is just stressful. She might tell you that she does not want to be in a relationship because she's not ready. She might include heartbreaking stories of how much her last boyfriend hurt her. There might also be details about how she needs to heal. However, her unhealed heart has not stopped your emotionally and physically intimate friendship from blooming for over 2 years. For some reason, you both thought it would be okay to occasionally make out since you're both single, you know. But yeah, you're still friends, tongues interlocking notwithstanding. One of the worst complicating factors is that situationships are never explicitly defined. Do you know the highly memed about "what are we" questions that everyone seems to dread asking? They are officially called questions that help you define the relationship, also known as DTR. Why does it seem old-fashioned to want a more defined relationship? Why is it expecting too much quickly to want to understand what months of just talking mean? Why does modern dating thrive on ambiguity? The thing is, old-fashioned or not, it would save you so much time and energy and potential heartbreak if you choose to be honest about your needs from the beginning. Some people find indirect ways to ask questions to define the relationship, hoping to understand what their partner's plans are. However, indirect questions still leave room for misinterpretation. Unfortunately, I find that those who are benefiting the most from a boundaryless relationship find ways to evade questions that help define the relationship. The only way to clear the fuzziness, save yourself unnecessary stress, and become confident of a person's intentions is to ask precise questions and clarify until you understand. Chapter 2, contradictory words and actions. The primary thing that makes situationships frustrating is that words and actions do not align. Instead, they are often contradictory. In situationships, both parties often act as though they are in a relationship while insisting on explaining the subtle differences between being a friend girl versus a girlfriend. When you say one thing and then act in a way that contradicts what you have said, it is confusing. Can you blame your brain for the confusion about what to believe? On the one hand, you are growing in intimacy with the lovey-dovey activities, and on the other hand, you say you are just friends. Your words and actions don't match up. Modern dating likes to imagine that the absence of boundaries frees people up to be their true selves, and that this lack of restraint must be somehow good because boundaries, like chains, are confining. This line of thinking is what birthed the "we're just hanging out, we don't need a title" style of poorly defined relationships. So what is the fuss about titles? Why do we need to be explicit about what we know we both feel? Is it merely a sign of status? Is it so we can officially brag about each other? Why is commitment so important? What if we are just having fun and it works for both of us? What if it has an end date like graduation day and we both know it? So why bother committing? I have thought about how to answer these questions, but I would like you to come up with your answers now. Do titles matter? And if they do, why are they important to you? Think about that. Do titles matter and why are they important to you? So come up with your own answers and feel free to drop them in the comments of this if you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast platform. This, by the way, is not to be shared anywhere else other than my own platform. So you're not permitted to duplicate it wherever you feel. Okay, defining a relationship, calling it dating, and establishing what you're trying to do matters, because with it comes boundaries, responsibilities, and expectations. I think of a boundary as the line that demarcates the beginning or end of a property. We place protective measures around things that are valuable and important to keep: our time, our investments, our money, our mental well-being, and so on. Boundaries in relationships protect us from fruitless investments of our time, emotions, and energy. Titles in a relationship are the most basic form of communication, of what we expect from each other. Titles at the very least say, I am yours, you are mine, and we mutually consent to pursue each other exclusively. I love that line so much. I am yours, you are mine, and we mutually consent to pursue each other exclusively. I can share deep things with you and expect that you will still be there tomorrow because we have committed to each other. Naming a relationship makes it less about going with the flow of how you feel about each other. It adds a level of dedication and loyalty. Ultimately, titles are about commitment and clarifying each other's intentions. Further defined expectations and boundaries will be required at some point, but a title is the starting point. Setting appropriate boundaries with a partner should also include a conversation about the purpose of a relationship, which protects both of you from years of assuming that you are on the same page. Conversely, neglecting to set boundaries with each other means you have no basis for expected behavior, since all you have to rely on are your assumptions. And you know what to say, assumptions make an ass of you and me. I just added that part. Titles in relationships are boundaries as they help keep outsiders out, reminding you that you are a unit, a team working together towards some agreed upon end. You need to ask yourself this: when no boundaries exist, what am I doing? Am I only passing time? Am I hoping things will figure themselves out? Am I convinced that situationships are only a waiting room? A place you wait till you become sufficiently frustrated by the inconsistency of a person's words and action. Inconsistency is very frustrating. It makes you want to yell, are you in or are you out? Inconsistency in a relationship is even more frustrating because of how stressful and anxiety-inducing unpredictable behavior is when you have feelings for someone. It's almost like you're waiting for someone to decide what to do with you. Oof. Understandably, you may want to revel in your feelings for each other, but you are not sure you are allowed to have those feelings. Many days are happy and enjoyable, and you subconsciously start to imagine a future. Although that is not a luxury you can afford with your no commitment but profoundly intimate situation. A situationship is heartbreak in the making. There is a fascinating twist to situationships. It would be different if situationships were one-sided. That is, if there were an apparent victim and a clear villain. But here is what is mind-blowing. In situationships, the victim is also the villain. As a person who recognizes the inconsistency in a situationship and chooses to continue to allow it to proceed, you are actively contributing to your imminent heartbreak. You are the victim of your partner's inconsistency. At the same time, you are the villain in condoning and participating in the maintenance of the mess. Is this not wild? I kind of feel myself when I read my own words. Okay, that was chapter 2. Chapter 3, what are we again? If you're reading this and you're in a situationship, you're likely the one who will get heartbroken. I do not mean to be harsh, but here's my reasoning. You're probably the person who cares more about being in a healthy relationship. Since you are more invested, you are more likely to be hurt if things do not work out. Understand that healthy relationships are defined. There should be a gradual move through the stages of relationships. You could be acquaintances who only sort of know each other. You could be curious about each other, which moves you into what we know as the talking stage, where you find out more about personal interests. Then you move on to the stage where you gain enough confidence and clarity to proceed as close friends or as dating partners, or you revert to being acquaintances. So at that point, you gain enough information to either go forward or be like, nah, let's just go back to being friends, acquaintances even, not even like friends, because at that point, it might be hard to be friends if you've crossed that line already. This is an addition I just added. I think you should be able to see that, but not everybody is watching. So yeah, and I think this is really important, but sometimes we just like stay in that in-between state. Okay, back to reading. Maintaining defined relationships requires a level of self-awareness and the courage to establish the level of vulnerability you are willing to share in each stage. So let me explain that a little bit. It's vulnerability to ask those questions, what are we? It's also vulnerability to be like, I know myself and I want boundaries. And I know that until like we have passed this stage, I don't want to share too much. Like I want to share enough to help you get to know me, but I don't want to like overinvest emotionally and get to levels of intimacy that have not matched our level of commitment. That's a big deal. And I think it's a gem I want to like pull out from here. Like your level of intimacy should grow as your level of commitment grows. One of the problems with our modern dating world is that the level of commitment stays stagnant while the level of intimacy grows. And then we wonder why we feel so heartbroken, so jaded about love, so confused about what to do, so heartbroken and so unwilling to then form deep, intimate bonds when we find the right person who's ready to commit because we've been broken in the past. So like, ideally in a relationship, you should be growing in commitment as you grow in intimacy. Growing in intimacy as you grow in commitment, not if the intimacy has stalled, if the commitment has stalled, the intimacy should stall as well. And when I say intimacy, I don't mean sex. Intimacy is how much you share of yourself, how much you pour out of yourself to someone, the level of trust you have in them to be able to share certain details. It is intimate to share. Like sharing is a very intimate act because they know you, they see you, right? And so the level of openness you want to have should be graduating as your commitment is graduating. And the problem with situationships is that we just blur the lines between are we committed or are we not? And then it's frustrating and it's like our brains and bodies feel the disconnect, but somehow it feels awkward to ask, what are we doing here? Let's finish out this chapter. Relationships, by definition, require one party to be more interested in commitment than the other. Even though both parties contribute to the inconsistency that allows situationships to continue, one person gets the short end of the stick and is left feeling cheated when things end. It is likely you who is more prepared for a committed relationship, you who are watching this, listening to this, reading this book. Yeah. Correspondingly, you are probably the one who will be left feeling cheated if you allow things to continue as they are. The heartbreak that comes when situationships end is a result of unmet expectations and unestablished boundaries. A situationship can leave you feeling like you have been led to believe that you both had the same level of interest in each other. It makes sense that you would feel this way, mainly because you both may have been acting like you were in a committed relationship, physically and emotionally. Sometimes you are even doing the most physically, and I understand that attraction does that. But yeah, back to the book. However, because situationships often rely on assumptions, the level of intimacy you have expressed physically and emotionally likely was never matched with the words of commitment, which is kind of the rant I just went on previously. You cannot undo the past, but you can create your future by being deliberate about how you create your relationships. There is good news ahead, and you can avoid this unnecessary heartbreak. So please keep reading / keep listening. So that's the end of chapter 3. I'm going to keep reading. If you're enjoying this so far, give it a like, give it a share with a friend who is in a situationship and looking at this. Share to your story so people can enjoy it, to send. Just share that you're enjoying it. Or feel free to tag me at Fopsy the Great when you share it as well. I'd like to see your tags. And if you're on a platform that allows you to leave comments, please leave a comment. I enjoy reading from you, and I'd love to connect with you as well. So the soft copy of the book is available to buy on fopsy.ca/situationship-book, or you can buy it on Google Books, Apple Books, and I think the link will also be in the description of wherever you're listening on. And I would appreciate your support in purchasing the book and sharing it with people that you love to also buy it. It's fairly affordable. The hard copy is no longer available, but you can buy the soft copy. I think I might write a version 2 at this point. I feel like there's more I have to say. Maybe not just about situationships this time, but about relationships generally, and maybe why you should scrap your list or something. I feel like this process of reading it is going to inspire me afresh, because I've kind of lacked that in recent times about relationships. Actually, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to put a pin in reading, and I want to tell you that one of the reasons why I just kind of ditched relationships for a minute was I feel like people don't really want to hear, people want to hear what they want to hear. And that isn't always what is the truth. I don't have energy to argue with anyone, that's how I've been saying it. I don't want to argue with you on the internet about what submission is, what relationships are, about godly relationships. If you don't believe it, then you don't believe it. Then you keep it moving, right? And I feel like I was passionate enough to write the book, and I know I used to be obsessed about relationships as a single person, because I think it was just all theory, and it was something I was very much looking forward to. And then I got there and I'm like, okay, great. I made all these mistakes. I read about it. I've gotten into a good relationship. I'm enjoying my marriage, and have been now for since 2019. I decided not to say the year, because whatever year you're listening to this, you will be able to do the math yourself to see how long I've been married for, by the grace of God, if Jesus tarries. So I've gotten my own stuff out of it, and so I'm open to giving advice now. When I'm in church and we talk about relationships, I still raise my hand and I speak. But I just don't know. I have no desire to argue with people, and I feel like I wonder if I have to be passionate enough to argue, or do I have to argue? Is that a wrong assumption? Is there a way for me to serve you and just tell you my strong takes that you may agree with or disagree with, and let that be enough? I also ultimately want to coach, so I started coaching, and I mostly focused on the business coaching side of things because I could see the path to income there. With the relationship stuff, I don't honestly know. I don't know. I didn't really pursue it as an income generator, and I'm at a point in my life where I need to make money, copious amounts of it, and I'm biased towards money making priorities, and I wasn't sure if this was going to be one of them. So I think I'll continue to share because I have thoughts now that I want to share. I don't know. Yeah, that just explains why I've been a little bit, as in why there's a gap in me sharing about relationships in the past. But I don't think you need to know this. So anyways, I will end that chapter 3 there, and then I will continue from chapter 4 again. If you've enjoyed this, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Yeah, let's talk soon. And then I'll keep reading soon.